Well, this is a bit different. I'm out in the car today because I'm on my way to take a look at a collection of computers that has recently come up for sale. I got chatting to this woman over the weekend there. Her late husband was a collector, much like myself. She's now moving house and has decided to clear out the roof space, which apparently is full of systems. She's looking rid of it all. I'm always looking to add to my collection, so let's go take a look. Well, just arrived. Let's go take a look. Now, I'm not going to do any filming inside this person's house. That would be rather rude. But I'm going to go see what we can get, and then we'll take a look at it later on in the cave. I have no idea where I'm going to put all this. The car is pretty much loaded to the gills, and that's the first run. This is going to take probably 3. Well, it's all finally home, but it's in my front room here because I think I slightly underestimated just how much was coming. I do not have the space for all this out in the man cave. It certainly can't stay in here either, and I really don't know what I'm going to do with all this. Quite the selection. Everything from Commodores, Apples, Amstrads to just generic IBM compatibles. So I think what we'll do is we'll grab each of these in their sets. Let's start with the Commodores, get them out of the cave and take a closer look. Well, this is most of the Commodore stuff. C64C, Amiga 500 and another 500. All of them have yellowed to some extent. The C64C and this 500 are particularly yellow, and all 3 of them are very dirty. But that's what you get for leaving them up in a roof space for years. I'm sure it'll all clean up fine though. 2 tank mice, 1 very nice Commodore branded RGB SCART cable, Commodore 1081 monitor with a lovely Amiga badge on it. There are another 2 Commodore monitors. Those are both 1084s, and of course both of them are missing their little drop down flap. 2 joysticks, 1 Speed King, 1 Competition Pro, and hiding around here are 2 external floppy drives. So I think what we'll do is just try and power on each of these systems individually. Well, in the 500s we'll take a quick look in the trapdoor to see if there's anything in there. And since there's 3 monitors, let's test out the 3 systems with each monitor. So, Amiga 500 number 1. This one hasn't suffered too much yellowing. It is very dirty though. Let's see if there's anything hiding in the trapdoor. Yep, we have something. Bit crusty looking. There's a battery in here. And a ribbon cable. Wonder what that's for. So, yep, we've got a battery. More battery leakage to deal with. My favourite. But we have successfully repaired one of these before, so I'm sure we could do it again. In fact, let me just get rid of that. I need a new set of cutters. These ones are done. Come on. There we are. In the bin with the Varda. But this has got me intrigued. So I'm assuming this is more than just your typical half a megabyte. And what this probably goes to is a Gary adapter. So just googling these part numbers quickly. Those are all 256x4 DRAMs. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 16 in total. That would be 1 megabyte of RAM total. So generally these things only have half a meg on them, but with 1 meg in their total, I expect that this, as I say, goes to Gary, and that enables the other 512K to give you a total of 1 meg chip and 512 fast. We're going to have a closer look though, aren't we, because it's got me intrigued. And I just noticed that. That does not look promising, sure it doesn't. A lot of corrosion there. Let's see what it's like inside. Wow, she is kind of crusty. Not too bad, but you know, lots of battery corrosion down here. Obvious signs of it here at the expansion connector. And as we thought, one Gary adapter. Speed Computers Gary chip. Rev 5 board, by the way. But I think we could risk trying to power it on. Well, let's test it. RGB's hooked up, power's connected, monitor is on. Here we go. Power light. And yes, it's booted to its kickstart. That's all we're going to test today. Don't want to go any further because we have an awful lot to get through. So this is the other Amiga 500. This one has yellowed quite a bit. And you can just see the corner of our second monitor there, a Commodore 1084. But first of all, let's see if there's anything hiding in the trapdoor. No. Oh well. You nearly always find a memory expansion of some shape, form or another. None in this one, so I guess this is just a bog basic A500. Yeah, just another Rev 5. So again, we're just going to power it on quickly and let's see what it says. Monitor and Amiga. Yep, all seems pretty good. Workbench version 1.2 this time. So the C64C, this has yellowed quite a bit as well and is very dirty. The stickers fell off. My other C64C is missing its sticker there as well. Little concerning that the back of this is hanging open, so someone's definitely been in here before and not put it together again properly. But before we do test this, the monitor, I'm not so sure I want to power this on right now. Big nasty crack through there. I didn't notice that before. And I definitely didn't drop it myself, but it's definitely been dropped by someone. Big crack through the housing there. And I would just like to open this up first of all and take a good look around the innards of it before trying to power it on. So I'm going to go and grab one of the other monitors to test with the 64. Let me do that, but before we test it, same again, let's take it apart quickly for a look. One very dusty old Commodore. It's got that stupid cardboard shield on it. But at least it's all seemingly complete anyway. Always worried with these things that the likes of the SID will be missing. Someone would steal it as it is quite valuable. Ugh, really needs a good clean. And I probably will wind up ditching this cardboard mess. But I'll leave it for now. To get it out, I have to take the motherboard out. Okay, everything's back together and properly this time. Let's test it. Monitor on. Here we go. Yep, we're getting a signal. Looks pretty good, but it's randomly throwing numbers at the screen. It's all numbers, it's all that top row. If I do try to type, you can't see the characters appearing there. Right, gives us something to look at in the future anyway. But at least it does power on. Well, that's all the Commodore stuff. We've got a dodgy keyboard on the 64 here, which is a bit of a shame because I was going to try and load something with the SD to IEC, but yeah, whatever. And there's that other Commodore monitor with the bad damage to the case, so possibly internal damage as well. I just don't quite fancy taking monitors apart today. I'll leave that for another time. Or I may even give it to someone I know who works with TVs and might be able to look at it for me. A very fruity bunch, 3 apples. So left to right, we've got a Mac LC2 complete with monitor. In the middle then is a Power PC, Power Macintosh 8200/120, presumably 120 megahertz, don't really know. And then an iMac in blue. My wife always wanted one of these back in the day. Suppose we've finally got one now. But what is missing here is any accessories. No keyboards, no mice. Now the iMac is just USB, so presumably I can use that with any USB keyboard and mouse. These two use the ADB bus. And yes, I know that is a bit redundant, Apple Data Bus, but you know what I mean. I do have one ADB keyboard and mouse from my Mac Classic, so we can use that to test these. If of course they even work. So same as last time, we'll test them individually. Take them apart first of all, just to make sure that there's nothing obvious in there that's going to explode or any signs of leaky batteries or anything of the sort. Although I think that more applies just to these two. The iMac, I don't think that's really old enough to give us any problems. And if there is a battery in there, you would expect it to be a lithium coin cell, so it should be fine. Let's start with the LC2. So the classic pizza box. Obviously lived this life in a professional setting because it's been pat tested. Macintosh LC, or low cost. These days though, LC more likely stands for leaky caps. Getting into this is really straightforward. There's supposed to be a screw there, but that's already missing, so all I have to do is lift. And yep, all these capacitors have leaked. You may not be able to make it out on the camera or not, but all the solder points around here are all very dull. In fact, some of them are very green. So all of this will have to come off. Well, all the capacitors will have to come off, and it'll all need a really good clean. Battery. And I think we're just lucky that it hasn't leaked, or at least it doesn't seem to have leaked. No, I don't think so. Let's get it out of there though. Yeah, no leakage at all. So at least that's something. No battery corrosion to deal with on this one, just the capacitors. Despite that though, I think we could still try and power it on. There'll be no sound, or at least I would expect there to be no sound. And it may throw a sad Mac at us because of that, but we can only try. Okay, let's try and power on the monitor. Hopefully it doesn't explode. That was a strange sound. And how about the machine? Well, hard drive spinning up, but you would expect that. No picture. Definitely no picture happening. Oh well, more investigation required at some point, but I dare say it's down to those capacitors. So the Power PC then. Unfortunately it's missing this bit of plastic off the CD drive. Although if I could model the sort of shape of that, I could probably print something out. Finding a match for that though might be difficult in terms of colour, so could print something out and then paint it, but probably have to paint the rest of it to match as well. But let's see if we can't get into this. So, whoops, heavy. 4 sort of thumb screws on the back of it. There we are. And we're in. Oh no. Oh no. Look what I see already. A big nasty, nasty blob of rust and gunk and horribleness. This thing might be toast. It's certainly full of dust. Can't see very much here just because of all the plastics and whatnot in the way. Oh no, look at the front of it. All that. That actually still feels wet. Corrosion up in here as well, that is still wet. It's battery juice. And on this one, we didn't get just so lucky. There's the battery there. And it's obviously spilled its guts. You can see damage here on the motherboard. Looks like it's probably a memory socket. Let me see if I can get the board out, actually. I can maybe see just how bad this is. So this thing obviously had a very busy life because it is caked in dust. But that battery corrosion, well, it's bad, but I actually think we might get away with this. Horrible. I am being a bit rough here, but those RAM sockets would have to be replaced. Anyway. Yeah, that is completely toast. In fact, there's 2 of the memory modules that just fell off it. And there's one fell off that as well. There. Thank you. Complete scrap. That one though seems to have got away with it. So we definitely need to remove those 2 DRAM sockets. Probably that 3rd one as well. There's a bit of nastiness up there. Some corroded traces around here as well, but I don't think it's anything that we couldn't fix with a few patch wires. I think we just got lucky here. That whatever way this machine was stored, it's almost as if the battery corrosion has been dripping, you know, directly onto those memory sockets and then running off the top of them, rather than down and onto the board. So I dare say this one could be saved. Yeah, just needs a bit of love. I just want to test this monitor quickly, so I've hooked it up to the Mac Performa. We weren't getting a picture on this from the LC2. I dare say it's that machine that's bad with its leaking capacitors, but just to rule out any problems with the monitor, I know the Mac Performa is fine, so let's test it with that. Yep, looks okay to me. Apologies for the refresh not syncing on the camera, but you'll have to take my word for it. It's a nice crystal clear image. Although I dare say this monitor is getting a bit tired. While that is bright enough, looking at it there, the brightness and contrast are maxed out at the minute. This is sort of the midpoint of both of them, and that really is just too dull. But at least we know the monitor does work. As for this iMac, I fully expect this to work. And it certainly sounds good so far. Ooh, snap, crackle and pop. Hopefully that's just dust burning off on the HV side of the monitor. Yeah, and away it goes. Those wee sparks there that you can hear and seeing the flashes on the screen, that probably is just dust arcing on the HV side. Or I suppose it could be bad solder joints or something, but we'll see if it settles down. And yes, seemingly works okay with my USB mouse. And if we just go about this computer, 32 megabytes of RAM, doesn't tell us a whole lot else. Mac OS B1 8.5.1. As you should know, I don't really know the first thing about Macs. Solitaire. Oh, someone was in the middle of a game. Their 461st game of 8 of. Eric. Oh, the game's called Eric's Solitaire. Sorry, I thought it was someone called Eric. I've been playing it. Well, happy that this thing seems to work. That's good. So just thought I'd test the CD drive quickly. Just with a Green Day music CD here. But if I go into the CD audio player, it says the drive is not responding. So it must obviously have a problem. We couldn't just get one Apple machine without any problems, could we? We've looked at Amigas and Apples so far. Let's move on to the Amstrads. Alan Michael Sugar Trading. Let's start with the CPC 464, complete with its CTM 640 color monitor. Has took a little bit of yellowing, and you can see it maybe in the blue and the green there, more so than the other keys. I dare say the belts in here on the tape deck will need replaced, but let's just see if it works. Now, power to the machine itself is derived from the monitor, 5 volts. So let's see if it works. Oh, I need to turn the system on separately. Nothing at all. Now, the first time we powered that on there, you did hear the monitor degauss. So almost seems as if there was power getting into this, but I wonder if a fuse just went or something, because there is nothing happening at all now. If I power cycle this, no noise whatsoever. A 13 amp fuse in this plug. That's not right. I dare say we should have a 5 amp fuse in there, if not a 3 amp fuse. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. So, more investigation required. Not getting any power to this system. Since I've got this out, actually, let's just see if there's anything coming out of that. Nothing. No. Nothing at all. It's dead. Wonder, is there an internal fuse in this that's blown? Oh well, that's for another time. Let's move on to the next machine. And that is the Amstrad PCW8512 512K personal computer word processor. This thing has also taken a bit of yellowing. You can see it on the keys there, where the shadow's been of the spacebar. Complete with its printer, which is looking kind of sorry. It's missing the top cover and the rail on here. What the head moves back and forward on is quite badly rusted. 2 disk drives and 1 disk. Missing the eject button here though. Now these are just single-sided disk drives, so the software written separately on each side. Here we have, what's that say, word script, start of day, not sure what the rest of that means. And on this side, CPM plus. CPM is the operating system that this thing runs. Now I dare say the belts in both these drives will need replaced. They're known for turning to goo, but let's see what happens when we try to power it on anyway. Well, the screen comes up, but it's just solid green. And that noise there is the motors in both these drives just spinning. I dare say those belts are completely gone and the drives are not initializing. We can adjust the brightness of the screen there, but there's not much else we can do. As I understand, there's no software in ROM on this. It has to boot everything from the disk. So we need to get a set of belts for the drives, and hopefully this old disk is still good. Although being in there that whole time, I don't know how good that would be for a disk. Sitting for X amount of years with the heads lying on the surface of it. Hopefully it works though. These need new belts, but I wonder could we get this up and running if we just put in a couple of elastic bands. I think it's worth trying anyway. So I think it's just 6 screws holding this together. Hopefully if we take those out, this back cover will drop off. Warning, high voltage. We're going to be staying very clear of the CRT and its HV, considering this has recently just been turned on. All we're interested in is the disk drives, and they are over here. And we're in. So the system here is driven by a Zilog Z80 CPU. A couple of custom Amstrad parts that I can see there. Presumably that's the RAM. All we're interested in though is these 2 disk drives. And there is what's left of our old belt. Don't actually think the elastic bands are going to do the job, because that is a flat belt. These things obviously aren't. And they're way too small. But it's on there, so it might work. We can only try. Right, I'll do the same in the other one. Put it all back together, and then let's just see if it worked. Well, we're all back together. Interestingly, that bottom drive, it's double-sided. The top one is definitely single-sided, but the bottom one has read-write heads on both sides, so I wasn't expecting to find that. There's a disk. Now, as you remember, that disk was in the drive when we got it. And I don't know if you'll be able to make that out or not, but there's a little spot on the disk surface itself there, and that's where the drive heads were resting up against it. Well, on that side it's like a wee foam pad that was resting on the disk, and it has definitely marked the surface. On the other side there is where the heads were sitting against it, and there is a definite mark there. So I don't know if this is going to work. While in here, I also just give the heads a bit of a clean and lubricated the rails and whatnot, but let's test it. Well, the drive is trying to read, but it doesn't seem to be getting anywhere. It could be that the elastic band I've put on there isn't tight enough. It's slipping. The drive maybe isn't spinning at the correct speed. which is causing read problems. Or I dare say more likely, the disk itself is just knackered. Not sure what the 3 beeps mean, but it seems to have given up. How about we try the other side? It has CPM on it. Doing something slightly different here, but still I don't think it's reading. It was worth trying, but I will have to get a proper set of belts and see if I can find a good disc. I know one thing you can do is fit a Gotek in here, but I would prefer, if possible, to get a real disc, 3-inch disc, and try to get it working that way. And then the last Amstrad we have to look at today is this, the PC2086-30. This is an 8086 class machine running at 8 MHz. The Dash 30, well, that's the 30 megabyte hard drive. 640k of RAM in here. Let's see if she works. Certainly makes lots of noise. And she seems to be booting up. Please wait. The monitor doesn't look too healthy, does it? But it has booted, it does. It's looking for us to enter a new date and time. Oh, there we are. That looks a bit better. It's all off to one side though. I don't know how to adjust the horizontal. That's just contrast and brightness. Still not convinced that that monitor is displaying properly. I mean, it's only displaying between there and there. I dare say our monitor is a bit tired. Maybe it needs a recap or something. But we finally have a machine that works. How awesome is that? Don't see anything on here though that we could run. Don't know. There's a few executables there, but nothing really jumping out at me. I was going to have a look in autoexec.bat, but there's no edit on here. What about the disk drive? Let's test it. Nope, drive's not reading. Albeit, I wonder, is it maybe just a 720k drive? Let me try another disk. Ah, it read that disk okay. And that is just double density, 720k. Didn't read the high density disk, so we'll have to assume that this is just a double density drive. So let me try another one, sure. High density again. Yeah, not reading it. So, possible issue with the monitor, or in fact I would say definite issue with the monitor, needs looked at. Although, is it getting better? Is it just me, or is it now filling more of the screen? And we can now see the first line of text there. So that would maybe suggest tired capacitors, just taking a while to warm up. And at least in this wee system, we don't have to worry about any possible battery damage, as its backup battery is not within the case, rather it sits on top of the case below the monitor. Just in there. It takes 4 AA's. That monitor is incredibly heavy. There is room on the side for 3 expansions. They're just 8-bit slots, as you would expect. So definitely have to look at putting a sound card in here of some shape, form or another. Bound to be something we can run. What's that? WSX. WordStar Express. Hey, maybe I can use this to look at autoexec.bat. Can we? Maybe. Yep, we can, but there's not a lot happening in there. So far we've looked at all the Amigas, Apples and Amstrads. All that's left then is the x86 machines, although there is quite a few of them to get through. So with that in mind, I think what I'll do is leave them for another video. This video itself is rolling over 35 minutes or so. That's definitely long enough. One other thing I just want to look at very quickly is this. This is a bool, and I think this is just a dumb terminal. Just the monitor and the keyboard, and on the back of the monitor there's inputs for modem and auxiliary. Y's written here, model number WY-60. Maybe if anyone knows anything about this, they could let me know. If we do try to power it on, it does beep at you and tries to display something, but just sits at this screen then. I think it's waiting for an input from an external source, hence dumb terminal. Keyboard doesn't seem to do anything. So I think that'll do us for now. As I say, we'll come back next time and take a look at all the IBM compatible stuff. There are a few gems in there, so make sure to look out for that video. But as for this one, and as usual, if you enjoyed what you've seen, I would appreciate a thumbs up. Why not hit subscribe so you don't miss the next part. Still plenty more yet to come here on CRG, and I'll see you next time.